Hello, friend. So, yeah, I have really enjoyed listening to Edward Art's newest video, and a few things have snapped in place for me, but there's a couple things that I want to touch upon because I think they're really valuable, and that is, he's right when he says listening to videos about ways to understand these teachings will only take you so far if you don't practice and try to, at whatever pace you can, incorporate these principles into your life. And that's something that typically doesn't just happen overnight, because usually, we're coming into these teachings oftentimes with a lot of baggage, a lot of, misunderstandings about how reality works. For me, when I first started listening to Edward Art, it blew apart a lot of misconceptions that I had just about myself. And he connected dots that helped me reconfigure how to connect my own dots. And I don't think enough can be said about the importance of testing these tools out for yourself, because I'm a person that when I find something that resonates with me, it feels true, it feels like it makes sense to me, right? I then have to implement the practice of it. That doesn't always feel easy at first, because it's implementing change, and we're kind of hardwired to coast and live our life on autopilot. So to implement change means that a part of us has to, that's why Edward says all the time, persist, because if you don't persist, the changes can't really take root. It would be like if you had a garden, and let's say you have this beautiful flowering plant that you want to see grow and thrive, but every few minutes, hours, days, you dig it up and you move it to a different spot. Okay, that's kind of a lot like states, inhabiting states, right? So when Edward says a lot of times we're just visiting these states that we desire, but we're not, assuming the state, we're not inhabiting the state more consistently than not, right? It's like taking a plant. The plant is the desire, and digging a hole for it, putting it there, and being like, this is a good spot for that flower. But then the shifting of your emotions, everything that happens in the outside world, if it compels you to jump into a state that you don't want to inhabit, that's literally like digging up a plant and moving it around to where it can never establish its roots, and then it's just gonna die at some point. It's really gonna struggle. And that's what I've been doing. I've been giving that to myself for a few months now, which is really just melding into the persistence of utilizing what I have been learning, what I have been listening to over the last couple of years concerning Edward and other people who have made videos about the law of assumption, and then just really putting it to practice. You know, it doesn't feel natural at times to not react to something that's happening outside of myself. But every time I inhabit the state that I desire consistently, then it becomes more and more my natural state that I just am naturally operating from. And I can then see that reflected in my outer world. And for sure, it's true. It does seem to do that. Does it go back and forth sometimes? Sure. I mean, I'm not always consistent. I will still have human reactions to things outside of myself. But, you know, the more and the longer that I've been doing this, the more I recognize they're like passing storms. And if I don't go outside with a lightning rod in my hands, chances are really good the storm is going to pass. I'm not going to be struck by lightning, meaning I'm not going to get dysregulated from whatever is going on in the outer world that I perceive. But that my inner state and relationship that I'm building with myself is so stable. It is, oh my gosh, I can't even, if I had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being incredibly stable and 1 being very unstable, I am closer to a 10. You know, like, it's not perfect, but I feel it a whole lot more than I ever used to. And that comes from persistence. It comes from not giving up and giving in to what the outer world is showing me. And I think most of the times I'm operating now on like a 7 and an 8. But it's also, my roots are getting acclimated to how it feels to live from a state of fulfillment. And so when I think about my inner being, my inner being is like the sun, like the brightest sun shining inside of me. And that makes everything in this outer world a shadow. You know, it's like this outer world isn't the first place I turn to for confirmation on anything that that is important to me. And I'm learning to go, you know, immediately within to confer with my imagination, within my reality within me, because I don't lose sight of who I am, what's going on, what is possible when I do that. If I start looking outside of myself, if I start letting anything distract me, gosh, that doesn't feel stable to me. So just like 2 nights ago, I was fine. I was having a pleasant enough evening, and I was getting close to bed, and I started feeling anxiety about an upcoming Zoom presentation that I was going to be doing. And and instead of just, you know, assuming the state, like it was all done, everything was good, I started feeling all this anxiety rise in me. And I went to bed and I put on Edward Art's new video because he had just dropped it a few hours prior. And I was happy to put his video on, and it oh man, it helped. It helped me because it immediately helped me reset my focus and how what I was giving to myself. So by the end of the video, or even, like halfway through, I started to hear the single flute, the sound of the single flute note in my right ear. And if you know anything about the sounds of the different planes, like astral, causal, etheric, soul plane, things like that, all these planes have their own sound. And I immediately, my whole mind and my whole body relaxed, because it was like, that sound was like, hello, remember who you are, remember what you're doing, remember you are not in whatever the state was where I was feeling all that anxiety. That sound was an immediate, that's not who I am. I am not anxiety. I am not troubled with these fearful thoughts about something that hasn't even happened. Like, that sound was like an immediate relief and relaxation in my body. And I listened to the rest of the video, and by the end of the video I heard it again, longer, stronger, and I just knew that, yes, I needed that reminder. And this is the thing. It's like what Edward said. These videos, they won't change you. The videos themselves and the information that's not what the information's for. The information is for you to utilize it, and then you change because of what you're doing in the persistence of utilizing the tools and the information. So for the longest time, at least the first year, when I was listening to Edward Art or any videos on YouTube about the law of assumption, intellectually, I absolutely knew and understood it. Just same with the law of attraction. Totally understood it intellectually. But it takes you to another level when you start utilizing the tools and incorporating them into your moment-to-moment life. For me, it's like food. I can subsist and I can thrive when I'm using the tools, not just listening, not just garnering some comprehension about something and then going, oh yeah, that makes sense. I could try that. I mean, that's like going to church, but never really fulfilling your relationship with the whole reason why you're going to church. It's like putting on airs or just walking through the motions. Those motions don't matter without the content being applied in your actual life. And it gets easier. It really does get easier. Because there have been times when I have felt so unbelievably just like, I I don't know, the best way to explain it is just like states where I felt so sad, so confused or angry or disappointed, or all of those words that describe a feeling like a hole that you can't seem to figure out how to get out of. But these teachings show you, oh my gosh, there is no hole. There's nothing to get yourself out of. You can use these tools to get yourself into where you want to be, how you want to be. And by practicing the states that you desire, it does become easier because, okay, so this is a good example. Let's say you want to make changes to your diet for health reasons. You don't do it by then cutting things out of your diet. That is deprivation and lack and miserable. And trust me, I'm telling you the truth on this. What you do is you just start incorporating what you do want, good things, into your diet. And pretty soon, it shifts everything in how you're eating, because you're eating more and more good things. Well, that just leaves less room for the crap that you don't want, but you're not focusing on taking anything out so much as you're crowding in so much good stuff that there's not a whole lot of room for garbage. Okay, it's the exact same with the law of assumption. You just start crowding out the unwanted thoughts and states by assuming the states that you do want. And I guarantee you do that because this has worked for me, and I'm pretty much the same as any other human. It starts shifting your life, and you will then see it in your outer experience. So I just, wanted to share that because I didn't really have a whole lot to say, too recently, but I just feel really excited that the more I persist, the more things open up in my life, and they're not even things that I have to actively do anything to make happen. And to me, that is a huge indication that what I'm doing is right for me, because it is easy and it does feel good, and it comes with an experience that just makes everything more concrete and more, the more you do anything, the better you get at it. So if you're really good at feeling crappy, then that means you just gotta figure out what you want to do, what you want to put into your diet, your daily diet, and nourish yourself with what you do want. It's taken me over 2 years to do this. It didn't happen overnight for me, and I had been, just absolutely adamantly in line with law of attraction teachings before I ever found Edward Art. And it still took me time, because we come with a lot of baggage. We come with a lot of misconceptions and misperceptions about reality and and just even about ourselves. So it's, it takes time to persist through some of that stuff that you don't need anymore. And the more you practice it, the more it just lifts away. You don't have to do anything to make it change. Like, you don't stop being who you are. You just become more of who you are until you just do it for so much. You just keep adding so much of who you are that it crowds out all the parts that you used to play or you used to inhabit or you used to assume that you're not. And that's the beauty of these teachings, is that there is nothing to change but the self. And the self itself is stunningly perfect and brilliant, just the way it is. And that gets more and more revealed to us as we go. So it's not about wrestling in a lion's den to change ourselves. It's about just persisting and giving ourselves more of who we truly are. And then everything begins to fall into place. So I hope that feels good to you and that you can give that a try and see what you think, because that's how you figure these things out. You work on it and do these things as you go. So I gotta go. I have a meeting to go to, but much love, friend, until we talk again.